Have you ever stopped to think about the journey your smartphone took to get into your hands? Or, where the coffee beans for your morning brew actually came from? We live in this incredibly tangled up world, right? A massive, planet-wide web of people, products, and ideas. It all feels so modern. But the story of how our world got this way, well, that's a journey that started thousands of years ago. To really understand right now, we have to go way back. Let's start with something we all know.
Okay, so think about that phone in your pocket. It didn't start out as a physical thing. Nope. It started as an idea. A blueprint, probably sketched out and engineered somewhere like Silicon Valley. That single creative spark is step one in what's about to become a truly global adventure.
But that design doesn't just sit there. In a flash, it's beamed across the world. Parts get sourced from all over, and the whole thing is put together with incredible precision in the manufacturing hubs of Asia. It literally takes thousands of hands in factories thousands of miles away just to bring that one idea from California to life.
And even then, the journey's not over. That phone gets loaded onto giant cargo ships and airplanes, crossing entire oceans to land in the store near you, whether you're in Paris, Tokyo, or Buenos Aires. All of that for just one product. It's kind of a modern miracle when you think about it.
This whole complex dance of design, production, and sales, that's what we call globalization. And while it feels like it was invented yesterday, its roots go deep. It's the end result of a long, slow, and totally fascinating story. Which, of course, brings us to the big question, how did we actually build this hyper-connected world of ours? So in this explainer, we're going to trace that incredible story. First up, we'll nail down what globalization really is. Then, we'll jump back in time to find its earliest threads in the ancient world. We'll watch as exploration, industry, and new tech each slam on the accelerator, bringing us all the way to the digital age we live in now and leaving us wondering, what's going to happen next?
All right, first things first. Let's get a clear definition on the table. What are we really talking about when we use this word globalization?
At its heart, globalization is simply the process of interconnection. It's all about breaking down the walls, whether they're mountains, oceans, or just different ways of thinking that used to keep us all separated. It lets people, products, and ideas move more freely across the planet. But, and this is key, this didn't happen overnight. It's a process that's been unfolding for thousands of years.
And to really get it, you have to see that it's not just about stuff in shipping containers. Globalization is really standing on four big pillars. You've got the movement of people, the trade of goods, the spread of powerful ideas, think democracy, or even new kinds of art, and of course the technology that makes all of it possible in the first place.
All right, let's move on and take a trip back in time. We're going looking for the very first threads of this global tapestry way back in the ancient world.
These first connections were woven an incredibly long time ago. I mean, as far back as 3000 BCE, huge civilizations in Mesopotamia and Egypt were already trading with each other. But the first real superhighway of connection was the Silk Road, which started to form around 200 BCE. And it wasn't just one road. Think of it more like a massive 6,000-kilometer handshake between the Roman Empire in the west and China's Han Dynasty in the east.
And here's the really important part. Those camel caravans were carrying so much more than silk and spices. They were carrying culture, language, and brand new technologies. Buddhism traveled from India all the way to China along these routes. Papermaking, a Chinese invention, made its way west, and that completely changed how knowledge was shared forever. But these routes also carried something else: disease. The first real hint that globalization has always been a double-edged sword.
Now, for centuries, this all happened at a pretty slow pace. But then an era came along that would hit the fast-forward button on everything. Let's move on to our third section, the age of exploration and exchange.
When European explorers crossed the Atlantic, they kicked off something called the Columbian Exchange. This was a massive two-way transfer of life that would change the planet forever. Horses and wheat showed up in the Americas, totally reshaping societies. And in return, crops like potatoes and corn flooded into Europe, which helped fuel a huge population boom that literally changed the course of history.
But we have to be really clear here. This was not some simple, happy story of progress. It had a devastatingly dark side. European diseases wiped out huge portions of the indigenous populations in the Americas. And this era saw the horrific expansion of the transatlantic slave trade. This new global connection, for all its exchange, was built on a foundation of unbelievable exploitation.
So if the age of exploration connected the world, the Industrial Revolution basically put that connection on steroids. Our fourth section is all about how new technology totally supercharged globalization.
For centuries, global trade just kind of grew at a slow, steady pace. And then, in the 18th and 19th centuries, boom. The amount of trade just explodes. It's a vertical line on the chart. The world had never seen anything like it. So what happened? What was the spark?
Well, the answer is engines. The steam engine powered ships and railways, making the world feel so much smaller. But there was another, more powerful engine at work here: colonization. European empires built these huge global networks for one main reason: to pull raw materials out of their colonies and then sell finished goods back to them. It absolutely created a deeply interconnected world, but it was a world that was designed from the start to be profoundly unequal. And that brings us into the 20th century, into a world that starts to feel a lot more familiar. Let's jump into our fifth section, which is all about the final collapse of time and distance. Each one of these innovations was like its own mini revolution. The telephone let our voices cross oceans instantly. The airplane let our bodies do the same. And I know it sounds kind of boring, but the humble shipping container, it was a total game changer, making trade standardized and radically cheaper. And then, of course, came the internet, which made the movement of information, money, and ideas instantaneous and basically free.
But this hyperconnectivity has created its own set of enormous challenges. We are now wrestling with growing inequality, the huge environmental cost of moving all this stuff around, and the risks that come when we all depend on these really complex, fragile supply chains. And there's also the real concern of cultural homogenization, the fear that a few powerful cultures might start to drown out the rich diversity of local traditions all over the world.
And this is the great paradox of our time, isn't it? Our connections let us work together across borders to solve huge problems. But that exact same interconnectedness means that a financial crisis in one country, a new virus, or even just one single ship getting stuck in a canal can send shockwaves around the entire globe almost instantly.
Which brings us to our final section. The history of globalization is long, but it is far, far from over. So the question is, what comes next? That really is the big question for our generation. The forces of technology, politics, and our own choices are constantly reshaping how we all interact with each other. Are we going to build more bridges, or are we going to start putting up new walls? The path forward isn't set in stone. It's being built by the decisions that we all make every single day.
And that's maybe the most important thing to take away from all this. Globalization isn't some finished chapter in a history book. From those first silk caravans to today's lightning-fast digital web, it has always been changing, always evolving. It is a story that is still being written, and the choices we make, what we buy, what we share, and who we connect with, are writing the very next page.